Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of In the Kitchen with Baker Girl. Thank you, Jesus. It is another beautiful day to be in the kitchen. Today, I'm going to take you along with me as I prepare to feed over 1,000 people for a special Labor Day event that I attended in the beautiful town of Hillsville, Virginia. So, let's go. Now, before I feed all of these beautiful people, I've got to feed my own beautiful people. So, I'm starting off by prepping several meals for my family. So, I am just getting some Brussels sprouts ready, adding some olive oil, some roasted garlic powder, a little bit of pink Himalayan salt. I'm going to put those in the oven. I'm going to let them roast. Now, here I have some potatoes from the farmer's market. They are beautiful potatoes. And I've got a humongous green bell pepper, also from the farmer's market. Dicing my potatoes, add in some of my green bell pepper, and a massive Costco-sized onion that did not come from Costco. I'm just drizzling with some olive oil and a little bit of salt, and into the oven. The potatoes go alongside to roast with the Brussels sprouts. Now, back to the chili. So the kidney beans have cooked and I drained them off. Now I'm just browning off some beef. This is Wagyu beef, which is very fatty. So I put it in a strainer, let that excess fat drip away. Here I have a diced jalapeno, the rest of the diced red pepper, and the Costco-sized onion that did not come from Costco. Now, the bell peppers are semi-done, so I'm just adding in some butter. This hot sauce is a local-made hot sauce. It's got mango, habanero. It's got all these different flavors. It's not just a hot sauce. And I added a little bit of teriyaki marinade along with some water. At this point, I want the Brussels sprouts to kind of braise. So I'm adding those chopped veggies to my Instant Pot. By the way, I'm doing this in my Instant Pot because it just makes it a lot quicker and easier. I didn't add any extra oil because, as I say, the Wagyu beef is quite fatty, so you don't need any extra oil. Added in some soy sauce and a can of crushed diced red tomatoes and some tomato sauce. I don't like a very tomato-forward chili, but it is necessary. And of course, I'm going to add in my chicken bouillon. And you know how I love my chicken bouillon. And I'm adding in the red kidney beans. Everything is pretty much done at this point. So it's just the flavors need to marry. So that's what I'm doing in my Instant Pot. My stove is not occupied with cooking. So before I get my brain occupied with feeding 1,000 people, I go ahead and prep my meals, get everything together. I'm going to let this just slow simmer in my Instant Pot for a while. Now the potatoes are done. They're looking delicious. I let them cool and then just packaged it up into individual containers and put that in the fridge. Now moving on, I'm making some quick pickles because we love pickles. If you guys know me, you know I love everything pickled. These are from the farmer's market as well. So I just top and tail them. Very important. If you don't top and tail pickles, they can spoil an entire batch of pickles. So absolutely top and tail them. And then I just cut them up into nice little slices. This is a refrigerated pickle, so they're not technically going to be cooked. And this is pretty foolproof because they're crunchy. And since you don't cook them, you just pour the hot brine over them, give it a little shake, and store your pickles. Let them sit on the counter for 12 hours and then just store the pickles in the refrigerator, and that's it. And in 12 hours, these pickles were ready to eat and they were delicious. Now I'm preparing a brine marinade for another meal, which would be fried chicken. Now I'm going to admit it, I was lazy and I did not feel like doing all that chicken. So I bought some pre-seasoned chicken breast from the grocery store, fresh chicken breast, and just added that to the marinade and called it a day. I'm sorry. When you're feeding this amount of people, you really don't have time. The chili is finished and it looks delicious. I let that cool and put that away into containers. Now, I had to take a tiny break and have a little nourishment for myself. So I had a cup of tea. And this is green tea with turmeric, and I just add in some agave and some milk because we youngers like milk in our tea. And here I'm making a massive batch of my vegan pecan praline. This is stovetop pecan praline. It's super quick, super delicious, and it's also not very sweet, which is one thing I really like. That is for my sourdough granola. Now, this is for a coffee cake, a maple pecan coffee cake. So I'm just adding some pecans and some walnuts and toasting those in the oven. They're out of the oven, nicely toasted. Now I am preparing the streusel because it's a coffee cake. It needs streusel. So I'm adding in some flour, some sugar, some cinnamon, of course, because it's coffee cake. And the request was something very cinnamon forward. So I added in an entire tablespoon of cinnamon. Add in some cold butter. Blitz this in a food processor until it looks like wet sand. You do need to add a bit of water to get that to that kind of consistency. Now, moving on to the cheesecake part of this cake, because this is a maple pecan cheesecake coffee cake. So I mix the cheesecake mix in the same food processor. No need to wash. And now I'm just going to the cake part of the coffee cake, because this is a 3-layer dessert. It's cake at the bottom, cheesecake at the middle, the crumble at the top. So it's just a basic vanilla cake: butter, sugar, eggs, flour. And I did add some Greek yogurt just to keep it nice and moist. This cake is delicious. And as I say, the request for this cake was very cinnamon heavy. So I put extra cinnamon in the crumble. Spread the cake layer, and now I'm spreading the cheesecake. This is just your classic cheese cake base that I'm adding to this. And then I have the nuts out. They are nice and toasted and blitzed. Add the crumble mixture to it, and then just give it a mix and sprinkle it onto the cake. Your cake layer for this must be fairly dense, because otherwise your cheesecake mixture and your crumble will sink to the bottom if your cake is very light and fluffy. And into the oven the cake goes, and let that bake. And I'll prepare the icing that goes on it, which is a maple icing. But that cake, it looks so good. This is going to feed quite a few people, because obviously this is quite rich. You've got cake, cheesecake, and all of the nuts and the crumble. I also made a blueberry version of this without the nuts, and instead of the nuts I added blueberries. And then there's the cheesecake and the cake in the middle. At the bottom, I also made a raspberry version of this. So this is the same cake, but you see how many versions you can make, and it saves your brain. This is the raspberry. I'm just sprinkling it with a little bit of powdered sugar. The raspberries were quite tart, so just a little bit of powdered sugar kind of dress it up, and also makes it look a little bit different from the other two. If you can use one base recipe and come up with a lot of different variations, you can save your brain a lot of work when you are doing a massive amount of baking. Now, moving on to the cobblers, because I am feeding a crowd, and so I needed quite a few cobblers. So this is a peach. This is one of the peach cobblers that I made. Delicious. People love peach cobbler. And I also made my very berry cobbler, and I made blackberry cobbler. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the very berry cobbler. So I actually have a cobbler recipe on my channel, a sourdough cobbler. And yes, this is the very berry cobbler, cherry berry cobbler. So it's dark sweet cherries, sour cherries, strawberries, and blueberries. The strawberries and the blueberries are from local farms. I make the cherry berry cobbler because there are people who don't like blackberries because of the seeds. The cherry berry ain't got no blackberries, so everybody is happy. And when you are feeding 1,000 people, you want to make sure you cover all of the bases. And some people will be happy with this. Now, this is the blackberry cobbler. This is just pure blackberries, no other berry. This is the single most popular cobbler that I make. But as I say, there are a lot of people in the world who do not like blackberries. And so therefore, the cherry berry cobbler ain't got no blackberries. And therefore, everybody goes home happy, well-fed, and satisfied. Now, this is the cherry berry cobbler. And I mean, this is actually my favorite cobbler because it's delicious. It's got all of my favorite berries. So what's not to like? Now, the peach cobbler gets packaged individually. Some of it, not all of it, because I do buffet style as well. So some of it is prepackaged, ready for those who want to grab and go. and everything is weighed individually. So everything is the same size. I have customers coming around all the time going, I want the biggest one. And I don't really say anything because I look at them and I'm like, they're all the same size. You're like, you might think this one has more. It doesn't, but they think they're getting the bigger one. A lot of times I don't say anything because I'm like, okay, if you think you're getting the biggest one, you go right on ahead and think it. But there is no such thing as the biggest one because they're all the same size. So get the peach cobbler packaged up and labeled and ready to go for those who want to just grab and go. And to be perfectly honest, it makes it a little easier on me because I don't have to scoop everything at once. So it makes it a little easier. And peach cobbler is a classic Southern, especially Georgia dessert because Georgia's the peach state. So I would like to say the cherry berry is my favorite, but I have to say the peach is my favorite. Moving on to the banana pudding. Now this is homemade custard for banana pudding. Yes, that is chunks of real butter. There is nothing low fat or light about this kind of food. People don't come to these events for light, low fat diet food. They want it in there. They want all the calories. They want the cream. They want the butter. So I'm just whisking the custard. I'm going back and forth between a whisk and a spatula. Otherwise, a spatula is not good enough on its own and a whisk is not good enough on its own. So I'm going back and forth between a whisk and a spatula until that custard starts to thicken. You'll know it because you can feel it in the whisk. It changes. And I do a whole egg custard plus egg yolks. Some recipes just use yolks. I use whole egg and yolks. To me, you get a better custard, and also too, it's not as wasteful. So as you can see, the custard is thickened nicely, and you cook it until it hits that consistency. By the way, I look a mess. I look a total mess. My apron is already generously spattered. But this is real life. And when I'm working like this, ain't nobody got no time for Pretty Little Baby. I'm sorry. I mean, not that I worry about Pretty Little Baby in any given day, but when you've got a lot of baking to do, especially baking on, at scale, nobody got no time for all that. So I'm sorry about the dirty apron and the sweaty faces. But hey, however, there is no dishes in the sink. So yeah, no dishes in the sink. So I'm glad about that. I wash as I go. Very important. Otherwise it starts to descend. The kitchen starts to descend into madness. So biggest tip, wash as you go. I can wash dishes up to 10 times a day. So many times that I actually forget. So I forget how many times in a day I wash dishes. I don't even worry about it anymore. I don't even count it anymore. I cannot stand to see dishes piled up. And I can't stand to see dishes in the sink. So I just wash dishes. And as soon as that water and that batch of dishes is washed, drain the sink and get ready for the next batch. So it's not looking too terrible though. Okay, heat off. And I'm going to strain this through a sieve into a stainless steel bowl and let it cool. This is a lot of custard. And it doesn't matter, whatever you use. Anytime you put eggs in something and you cook it on the stove, you need to pour it through a sieve, because no matter how good you are, no matter how vigorously you stir, you're going to get some lumps of overcooked egg. That's just going to happen. And obviously you can say, oh, well, it doesn't bother me, but that's the proper method of doing it. I do it. So I'm just going to pour this through a sieve and strain it, and then pour it into a bowl. Cover it with a piece of plastic wrap and let it cool before I chill it in the fridge. But That looks good. That looks good. Excuse me. That looks good. Okay, so I've got it poured over the bowl and I'm just straining it through the sieve. Just removing those little overcooked bits, and I'll show you. So you see how it's looking a little lumpy? Not perfectly smooth. And you can see how you see there's little bits of overcooked egg. So, you know, it's going to happen there, especially if you use egg whites. It's even more important that you sieve it, because the egg whites, you're never going to whisk it good enough or keep the temperature low enough. Even if you use a bain-marie, you're still going to get some bits of overcooked eggs. So French pastry chefs do this, and they're supposed to be experts. I'm not an expert. I'm not a French pastry chef, but I still think it's a good idea, especially if you want a nice smooth custard, which we do. So just keep doing that until all of your custard is passed through your sieve. No, those little bits won't go through here. This sieve is made for this, so those little bits will not go through. Just the custard goes through. The last thing to add is you can use vanilla extract or you can use vanilla bean paste. I prefer vanilla bean paste. Vanilla bean paste doesn't have, it typically doesn't contain alcohol. Sometimes it does. Now, I like regular pure vanilla extract, but in this case, the alcohol would not have the opportunity to get cooked off. And you could just end up with that yucky flavor that, you know, it's just not very nice. So some vanilla bean paste works very nicely. Yeah, it's expensive. But I mean, you know, this is custard and we want it to be good. So I prefer, in this case, the vanilla bean paste. You add this in at the last minute so you don't destroy all those rich vanilla flavors. This is going to be so good. And you can see all the pretty little specks too. That's always nice, because you know you're getting the real deal. Now, once the custard is cooled, I fold in whipped cream. You can layer your banana pudding with just plain whipped cream in between the layers. I prefer to fold the whipped cream into the custard. It lightens the custard. It makes it a lot more velvety, and it also helps your banana pudding to stay fresher longer. And you know the drill with banana pudding: cookies, bananas, and that super rich custard. Now, I made several of these as well. People love banana pudding. And when you're a caterer, it is your business to make what people love. And you got to have enough of it, because there's nothing worse than running out. That can ruin a caterer, running out of food. And that's one lesson that I learned early on. Never run out of food. Even if you have an excess amount of food, don't run out of food, because that's bad. So this is the finished banana pudding. You can top it off with whipped cream when you're done and just add a layer of whipped cream. But that's a little over the top, even for me. It doesn't need it. But you see how nice and fluffy and custardy and rich this banana pudding looks. And I mean, homemade banana pudding is the best. And of course, people can tell. Now, this is a chocolate marble vanilla pound cake that I made. I made several of these as well. And I'm soaking this in a vanilla simple syrup. This simple syrup has vanilla bean paste in it as well. And I'm just I soaked each cake in with that simple syrup when they're warm and out the oven. Similar to the way you would do a babka. When a babka comes out of the oven, you soak it with the simple syrup. This is the same concept. This does not have any nuts or anything in it, so it's perfect for people who have nut allergies. Same thing for the banana pudding. Perfect for those with nut allergies. Now, I sliced the cake and then individually wrapped and packaged each slice of cake and labeled, and it's ready to go for those who want grab and go, which is important when you are feeding a crowd. Now, coming up in part 2, we are getting ready for the festival, And I will be doing some fried pies because this is fall. So I'll be doing some fried pies, and we'll be packing all of this food up and heading out to Hillsville, Virginia. So don't forget to like and subscribe. And the good Lord willing, I will see you guys in part 2. So stay tuned. Take care, y'all. Bye.